Hi, I'm Ariel. I come from Israel and I currently live in London. I'm competing this year in the Rubinstein Piano Master competition and I have been asked to answer 5 getting to know you questions. The best piece of advice I've received from a teacher came from Yuval Cohen, who taught me in Israel. And that advice was that whenever you play in a concert, there is at least one person in the audience, of course, it's a lot more than one person, who has never heard the repertoire you're playing. So it could be even something as famous as the Moonlight Sonata, but there's at least one person who's never heard the piece, and that's whom you're playing for. Not for somebody who's sitting with the score and who's heard the piece thousands of times and was looking for flaws and mistakes, but rather for somebody who's never heard the piece and who's going to walk away from the concert with the impression you gave him of the piece. So that is whom you're playing for, and I think these are truly words to live by. My ritual for right before the concert, I don't have one. I've tried a couple of things and I can't seem to stick with any one of them. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'd be eager to think about them. Beethoven, Chopin, or Rachmaninoff? Beethoven. I'll go with Beethoven because uh, I always feel so uplifted listening to him and playing him. Uh, Somebody once said, I don't remember who it was, Beethoven is always a winner at the end. So it doesn't matter how dire the music might feel in the middle of the piece, but by the end of the piece, you just know that Beethoven is going to redeem himself and redeem the listener with him. And that, I think, is what makes him such a thrill for both listeners and performers, and it's why his music never gets old. And personally, what I feel is my link, if you will, to Beethoven is his absolutely inimitable sense of humor, which has so many facets to it. It can be tragic humor, it can be dark humor, it can be slapstick humor. But I think that his sense of humor is really the channel through which he transmits his ideas to the audience, and that I find extremely fascinating and inspiring. I haven't played any piece that nobody has ever heard of, but I think the closest I've got to that is Mettner's Sonata Idyll, which I consider to be a real masterpiece of piano literature. I know that some people don't really like Mettner, but to anybody who is a Mettner skeptic, I would definitely recommend the Sonata Idyll because I think it will cut through any skepticism because it really has unique qualities to it that Mettner's other works don't necessarily have, and definitely a lot of the works written around the same time don't have. Many places in Israel inspire me, but the first place that comes to mind is probably the university campus in Jerusalem, where the conservatory and high school where I studied are situated. I just feel that the scenery of the campus green and the different types of architecture you see there are all somehow part of me since I spent so much of my childhood and teenage years in that place. So that is definitely a place I sort of say took with me when I moved to London.